Microphone check, check. Welcome to the One Life, One Chance podcast. I'm your host, Toby Morse, and I have a very special guest today in my kitchen. Please welcome to the podcast, Maggie Baird. I said it right?
Pretty good.
Baird?
Baird. Scottish.
B-A-I. I always get this wrong. People listen to podcasts. I always fuck up everybody's last names, and I'm sorry, man.
It's okay.
Maggie
It's pretty
Baird.
close.
Scottish?
Maggie
It's a
Baird.
cool name. There's so much things. Everybody knows about your family, obviously, but there's so many things about you. I did my research. Obviously, you're from Colorado.
I grew up in Colorado.
Which I love. It's a beautiful place.
It is. It's so beautiful.
And how was it growing up there?
I loved it. I grew up in a little town, a tiny town of like 2,500 people, I think, when I lived there.
Wow.
Fruta, and near a big town. Big town. It's really small too. Grand Junction. It was beautiful. You know, very outdoorsy. Lots of camping trips.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I loved my town. I love outdoors. I ultimately felt a little, there's a certain amount of fear I had in a small town. I don't know if that makes sense.
I know what you're saying, yeah.
Something when I went to school in Utah, and then I went to New York City, and I don't know, I found it sort of comforting to be like, shut your door, lock your door, lock your door. Just, I don't know, small town, there's a certain, all the serial killers come by, you know what I mean?
I like the energy of lots of people. I'm a city slicker.
There's a certain, I like the anonymity of a lot of people, if that makes sense. In
Yeah.
a small town, the whole, like, everybody knows you. Like, that's a good and a bad thing.
Yeah.
I kind of enjoyed the, privacy or anonymity of being in New York.
Yeah. So you went from there to Utah for college, right?
I did, yeah. Because my brothers went there to ski, and then I went there secretly to ski, but I was a dance major, so you weren't supposed to say that you skied, but to dance, and then do theater.
Yeah. And what got you into the dancing and the theater stuff? Like what was your inspiration
honestly, my
to do
whole
that?
life, from the time I was the littlest child, I said I wanted to be an actor. I have no idea where that came from. Like 2 years old, my parents were like, I'm going to be an actor. Never changed.
It wasn't a show. It wasn't a certain actor. And nothing like that.
Oh, there were certain actors I loved for sure. When I was little, I loved Lily Tomlin. I loved Laugh-In.
Or Laughing, yeah.
Yeah, I loved Goldie Hawn. I think that was probably Jane Fonda. I loved Cat Ballou.
Okay.
In fact, later, Billie discovered Cat Ballou too.
Oh, wow.
I told this story recently, which I'd totally forgotten, but I think it's a strangely interesting story, which is that when I was a little kid, I loved this movie, Cat Ballou with Jane Fonda.
Okay.
And we only had we had 2 drive-in movie theaters and 2 little theaters in the bigger town near us.
Yeah.
And Cat Ballou was coming to the drive-in. You only saw movies when they came to the movie, and they'd come like once a year. You'd go see whatever it was. Cat Ballou was coming, and we were going to be on a family camping trip.
Okay.
And I was devastated. And so my parents told me to write a letter. So I wrote a letter to the owners of the drive-in movie theater explaining my terrible sadness at missing Cat Ballou. And would they extend it for another week till we came home?
God.
And they did.
Wow.
And I always think, like, they say with kids, with parenting, you want to help your kids learn that they have power, that they can take action and make change. And that's such a stupid story, but I think it's proof. It made a difference to me. I was like, I wrote a letter and they changed it.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. Yeah, that's amazing. Did you continue writing letters for things moving forward? That's so cool, though.
Yeah, I think it just gave me that sense that you could make something happen.
Yeah, you're such a supportive parent. Were your parents like that too?
My parents really were. I mean, it was a different era, so somewhat manifested in a different way. But my dad chose his career to be with his kids. Like he decided he was a school teacher.
Yeah.
He picked that career not only because he loved it, but because the hours were family, Not so much anymore. I think teachers have to work insane hours, but it used to be, you worked 8 to 3.
Yeah.
You coached one sport a year, kind of a deal.
Yeah.
Worked in the summer on the Colorado National Monument, and my mom was home, and she, was, making our birthday cakes and kind of classic, making all my clothes,
Wow.
homeroom parent. So they were super involved.
Yeah.
She later had a business when I was a bit older. She actually worked at the school. I now remember she was a secretary at the school. But yeah, same thing. Home when I got home. Always around. When summer vacation, they were there.
Tight family.
After school, they were there.
Your brothers and sisters?
2 brothers, older brothers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You guys are tight too?
Yeah, I'm very close to my brothers. Unfortunately, my mom died in her 50s.
Oh, wow. Sorry.
Suddenly of a heart attack.
Wow.
Yeah. And my father died. He also had a massive heart attack, but he died of something else. He died later of pulmonary fibrosis.
Wow.
Yeah. So
50s is young.
I've not had the pleasure of having parents with my children, which is really sad, which I think, to be honest, probably affects how I parent also.
Yeah.
I think losing your parents, it informs how you parent. You never have a sense of taking anything for granted.
Yeah.
Frankly, I wish sometimes I could take things for granted more. I think, it's very painful to always be aware, to always have had the experience of like things can change in a second.
Yeah. I lost I'm push this closer to you a little bit.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
That's
I
okay.
have terrible allergies kicking up right now.
I lost my dad when he was 33 and I was 3. He had a rare heart condition. So my mom raised 3 boys on her own. So I could totally relate to that. So then becoming a parent, you just want to be the best you can be. You know what I mean? Give all that. Realizing now looking back that my mom raised 3 boys on her own, I have the utmost respect for her. Even though we had our times where she kicked me out when I was 17, I moved to New York by myself. All that was meant to happen, but there was resentment there for a while, but obviously we're in a good place now. But just looking at my mom, how she raised 3 boys, it must have been so difficult. I can't even imagine. Yeah.
And really by herself too, like.
I mean, she married this one guy, but he wasn't good enough for her 3 boys, so we kind of ran him out. You know what I mean? There was nobody like my dad was a real true love, you know.
Wow.
So she had a couple boyfriends, and we always bump heads. We were always protective of her, you know.
Yeah, I can't imagine doing it alone. To be honest, it's so hard.
It's crazy.
I mean, it's hard enough just not having grandparents or, my brothers don't live close. It's hard enough with no family around, to be on your own.
Yeah, it's when you become one too, you see it so differently. All right, so you're in college, whatever, and then your major is theater and acting, correct?
Yes.
And then how you end up going to New York? Do you get a scholarship there or something, or end up?
No, I just one day was in. I went to college. I think it. I don't know. I was saying this to you personally earlier. Like my dad was a school teacher and a principal, but I was always pretty. My oldest brother quit high school, went to college, quit college, went to law school. So I kind of had already sort of seen that you could piece together what you needed, right?
Yeah.
So I just went to college and I took all the classes I wanted to take. I didn't take classes with eye to graduation, to be honest. I took some tests that let me skip a year of college, and then I just took the classes I wanted. And then I was in, actually remember it very well because I was in a drama history class, right? Yeah. And some conversation started that was interesting for a change. Mm-hmm. And I was asking all these questions, and it was really an interesting discussion. And someone in the class, this is a college class, by the way, somebody said, "Why are we talking about this? This is not going to be on the test." In a college class. Crazy, yeah. I was like, that is insane. I literally walked out of the classroom. This is so dramatic. It sounds embarrassing, but it's true. I walked out of the classroom to the registrar's office and resigned from school.
Wow. How long have you been going there for?
2.5 years.
Wow.
And I moved to New York. Now, I actually moved via a Shakespeare company in Lenox, Massachusetts. So I knew what my summer plan was. I was going to work at this Shakespeare company in Lenox, Massachusetts. So I had a plan. Yeah. But then I extended the plan and then I will move to New York City. So that's what I did.
Wow. Is that a major culture shock going from Utah to New York City?
Yes.
It's so insane. It's such a drastic difference.
Oh, I remember, this is so not true though, but I remember also because, your view of New York City at that time was just from movies and they're always just the worst.
Taxi Driver, all that.
Yeah. Oh my God. Taxi Driver completely was the one because I'm I remember sitting on my bed and my brother was home from college and he was in grad school, I think one of my brothers. And he was like, "I'm so nervous of you moving to New York City." And I'm like, "I know, I'm so afraid I'm going to get shot." And, like I thought it was like a war zone, literally
Like the
a war
Warriors.
zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, but I have to do it. I have to go pursue my dream.
Wow.
It was nothing like that, of course. You move there and it's great.
What year would that have been?
81?
Wow, New York was no joke in 81. I moved there in 88, and it was still crazy, but 81, that's...
It was no joke. No, it's
Wow.
true. It's true. It was intense. It was a little bit intense.
But you went there and you made it. That's awesome. You started everything there pretty much, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, I am a working class actor. I certainly was. I went there, did regional theater. That's kind of what you do. This is an interesting story I've never told.
Let's hear it.
I feel like, should I even tell the story? But
Yes, please.
I was with an agent. I got an agent very, very quickly. Kind of an agent was probably too big for me. Like, why would I get such an agent? Somebody recommended me. And then I never got really any jobs from that agent. I would just go to these open calls at the Equity Lounge and, go audition for things, open calls. And I got a bunch of jobs from that.
Yeah.
So I'd go do regional theater. And I really never got anything from this kind of really well-known agent. And then years later, I met somebody who'd worked at that agency. Not years later, but after. It's a long story. I ended up leaving them, etc. And they said, hey, just so you know, I worked there, as you know. And she goes, we were instructed to say that you were out of town when someone called for you for a job.
What?
Yeah, because I didn't know this at the time. I learned it later. There was a certain amount in that era, it's a long time ago, where agents would do this thing called shelving people. So they would take on sort of all the people in a category, right?
Yeah.
So in my case, it was like this agent had like all the girls that were like 21, young 20s.
Yeah.
I had like curly, Irish, whatever.
Yeah.
I hit all of them. And then he would shelve them all, except like one or two, right?
Yeah.
Take you off the market, basically.
Okay.
So that was not
Just to
a
have
nice...
you, so nobody else could have you?
Nobody, yeah, because it was like if you take away the competition, basically.
Yeah.
So that sucked to learn that. Yeah, very evil.
Yeah.
But didn't stop me. I got a lot of jobs from going to open calls. You know?
I have a list of some of your jobs. You're probably not going to want to talk about
gosh.
any of them, all of them. But Another World in 1981.
That was like one of my first jobs.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I remember that show.
And you know what? I got that job not from the agent, but because I went to an open call for like, regional theater, and it was the same casting person. So
wow. So yeah, that's a big deal back then. That was a big show.
Big deal, yeah. And I played Rhonda Sadowski, the bad manicurist.
And then The Iceman Cometh was on Broadway. Was the first thing you did in '85. Was that the first big one?
Well, I did a lot of regional theater between those, but that was my first time on Broadway. And I mean, I was only on Broadway when I went on as an understudy, but the other understudy was Stanley Tucci.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
Yeah, he's fun.
And then As the World Turns, were you on that too as well?
I was on that for a year. Yeah,
that's a big one too.
That was a big one. Yeah, my mom died suddenly while I was on that, so that was really rough. But that was and those were jobs at the time. Like you were a theater actor and you did a soap opera. You know what I mean? Because you could kind of do both.
Yeah.
You could do a play at night and a soap opera in the day if you were lucky.
Soap operas was so big back then.
They were so big and they paid so well. I mean, now looking back, it wasn't that great, but
back then.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
I remember like I had 1 year on that soap opera, and I thought, wow, I can finally have some money. It was only 1 year. The next year, nothing.
Yeah. Were you living in Manhattan too?
Yeah, I lived in Manhattan.
So different back then too.
So different. I had pretty good apartment karma. I got a pretty good place. Once again, then eventually found out that your landlord was scamming you and whatever,
Was it like downtown, like
Lower
East Side?
My husband, who I met doing a play in Alaska, Patrick, we met on a plane going to Alaska, but he had a place in the Village. But my place, I had one on West 86, and then when Patrick and I moved into a place on West 88th and Broadway in Amsterdam, Uptown.
And then you had your first movie, An Innocent Man. That was the first film debut.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, this is so weird. Nobody ever talks about this.
I did deep dive on you.
Yeah, and you know what's cool about that? I turned 30 years old shooting that movie. I thought I was so old, so old, and I shot on my birthday. And I was like, this is the start of my big career, you know. And it was the one weird year where the Academy Awards was not on a Monday or later became a Sunday. It was like on a Thursday or something.
Yeah.
And I was shooting on my birthday, and I thought this was all so auspicious. Of course, the movie came out. All my lines were cut, you know. I was still in it. I was playing like a, you know, a crack in person. I was still in it, but all my lines were gone. You know, there's nothing like, and it's happened to me many times.
Well, you get cut, you mean?
You're sitting in the movie and you're like, oh, that should have been me.
That was my part, yeah.
It's the worst. Dang. Sometimes they tell you, like I got cut out of a Zach Galifianakis thing 2 years ago between Two Ferns movie. But the whole family got cut out. We had a whole scene, like the whole family,
I love that show.
all gone. They had told us, at least they gave us warning. I've been warned a few times that I've been cut, but other times I've sat in the movie theater and been like, oh God, you want to die?
Waiting for the moment and it's not there.
Yeah, it's not there. It happens all the time. You know?
I'd rather be not paid and be in it than get paid and not being it. I don't know.
Yeah, you're lucky if you stay in the credits, because then at least you'll still get paid like residuals, etc.
So then you're just grinding then, just doing everything you can, auditions, working.
Yeah.
Were you working a regular job too?
Not really. I mean, I kind of was a working class actor, you know, kind of pieced it together, you know, not a lot of money, but like just enough. Making enough, you know, and I did work in a bakery for a year. It was more for interest than because they paid me $6 an hour or something. Wow. It wasn't a money scheme.
Yeah.
But it was interest. But you know, then I started the Groundlings. So that's when I sort of went on a different path.
And then the Chronicles tour too, the Heidi Chronicles tour.
That was I lived in New York then. I guess I came out and did that movie during a pilot season or something. And then I did the tour of the Heidi Chronicles. And
that was a long tour, it looked like.
Yeah, that was like 9 months, yeah.
Wow.
I met some of my best friends. Well, Amy Ryan, still one of my very best friends, I met on that tour. Yeah, it was really fun though. Touring as an actor is so fun. You know, because you get to go, especially if you're in the kind of tour we were, and you go sit in a city for 2 weeks and stay in a hotel and do the show in a beautiful theater, and you got all your cast. It's so fun.
Same place every day, like
so much fun. It's not like a music tour where you're like different brutal. City and you don't see anything in the city. Like we were like literally 2 weeks in Chicago, going to Chicago Art Institute. You know what I mean? It was nice fun life.
And so to go back 1 second, were you raised vegan or vegetarian? That came later.
I was not at all, but I wanted to be from my earliest memory.
Yeah.
My earliest memories were not wanting to eat meat. Mm-hmm. My brothers didn't want to either. And my parents used to joke, this is Western Colorado. My father hunted and fished.
Wow.
Yeah. And he would joke like, our kids are so cheap, you know, because everyone was like, you know, meat is expensive. Steak is expensive. I never ate a steak in my life.
Yeah, me either, actually.
Really?
No.
Oh, so disgusting.
Disgusting.
I mean, hamburger, those kind of things, you could like, your mind could like, okay, if you burn it and you make it undisguisable, whatever, like it's all they're giving me to eat, unrecognizable.
Meatloaf was my mom's thing with tons of like onions, all kinds of stuff in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess undisguisable is not a word. Unrecognizable.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I never wanted to eat it. It was always disgusting. I remember, and I'm not one of those people, like my husband could regale you with stories of his childhood, you know. His summer camp stories go on forever.
He remembers it all.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he tells the same stories over and over, but he remembers a lot of it.
Yeah.
I don't, but I do remember very clearly sitting at the dining room table because I would not taste the venison. And I just like arms crossed, like I'm not going anywhere. I am not eating that. Sitting there for hours and hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because you knew where it came from too, especially if
I
your dad
knew
was
where
a
it
hunter.
came from. I'm not. Bambi's mother was hanging in the front yard. I am not eating that. No. And my brothers too. We never wanted to eat it. And you know, it was a different era. You know.
Totally.
So people were so worried. Like you have to eat it. You've got to eat protein.
Live.
Oh my gosh. So I remember saying that my brothers became vegetarians when they like left the house, basically 17, 18, and I was like, I want to too. My parents were like, no, you can't. Please, we beg of you. They're so worried.
So worried.
Beg of you, right? So I remember being like 17 in the kitchen and like having some lunch meat on a piece of bread,
Yeah.
And I was like,
bologna and cheese.
I don't have to do this anymore. Like never again. It was like freedom.
Yeah.
So that
was it.
Never. Yeah. And people are like, did you ever cheat? It's like, are you kidding me? It's disgusting to me. No.
Yeah, once you go, it's hard. You can never go back.
You can't go back.
And back then it must have been hard too. That was before people even knew the word vegan or any of that.
Yeah. Well, I was only a vegetarian because I did not know the word vegan.
First. Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And also I had no idea about dairy and eggs.
Yep.
It's like a little bit like leather. You're like, oh, it's just a byproduct. It's just like extra,
Yeah.
And then once you learn, you're like, oh, what an idiot I was. But I had no way of knowing. I had literally grew up in a small town where I had seen milk come from a cow, and it was fairly benign, and it wasn't a factory farm.
Yeah.
So I had kind of grown up with that image,
Yeah.
and I didn't really know what was happening to the chicks. I saw the baby. I played with baby chicks all the time.
Wow.
Because we had friends who were farmers, and they had baby chicks, and I loved those baby chicks.
Yeah.
No one ever told me what was happening with half of them. So yeah, it was very liberating. And then, but it was hard. I remember going to a relative's house for dinner, and when I moved back east, they were like, "Go see your uncle and your aunt," right? So I go, and she had made some chicken dish, that she had been told I liked from some other relative, where I had eaten it, at their house. This. But you know why I liked it? I didn't really like the chicken. It was in like mushroom soup, right? Okay. So like, I like the mushroom soup.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, I'm so sorry, I can't, how you are, you're so apologetic. And they yelled at me. They were like,
so offended.
So mad. My uncle was so mad, like, well, how dare you? And why couldn't you just be polite and eat it? And I felt so bad. And I think that probably cemented, unfortunately, about 15 years of me being very apologetic and very accommodating and like, oh, don't mind me, I'm so sorry.
I don't be a burden.
I don't want to be a burden.
Yeah.
I'll just eat the salad,
Some dry ass salad.
Yeah, just have a salad. Just a salad. Remember how many times did you have to just eat a salad and a dry baked potato? That you put in the salad.
Or like a roll too, whatever.
Oh, a roll.
Where was kale and quinoa back then? Where was that? Why was nobody?
It was a weed, I think.
Nobody's even talking about it back then.
I know.
I wish we had it back. I had falafels and
that's lucky falafels.
But those original like kind of hippie patty veggie burgers that kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
And then Boca Burgers came. Boca Burgers changed the game. That was our impossible back then. The Boca Burger. They
really were, yeah.
And then the not dogs or the tofu pups.
But I by that time I didn't like anything that tasted like meat.
I feel you.
So I like the veggie burgers. Like I like the burgers
more
that
healthy.
I just like the way they taste.
Yeah.
Like to be honest, I don't get the meat thing. Like it tastes gross to me. Like it tastes seriously disgusting.
Yeah.
It's not just that I associate it, and maybe it's because I associate it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But to me, it tastes really gross. I like stuff to taste like grains and vegetables.
Yeah, I know.
Flavorful.
Yeah.
Black beans and they have more flavor actually.
Yeah.
I guess meat has that whatever umami, but you can add the umami to the other and then also get the other, if that makes sense.
Did you start cooking back then?
I have always
at a young
cooked.
age?
I've cooked my whole life.
Yeah.
I love to cook. When I was little, again, my mom was a pretty good cook and she was a good baker, and I read cookbooks for fun as a kid.
Wow.
I remember getting sent on a trip when I was 14 to go stay with my cousin. They'd had a tragedy in their family. And so my other cousin had killed himself, and it was very sad. And
it's heavy.
Very heavy. And so I went to stay with them for a while in the summer. In the airport, I bought cookbooks to read in the plane.
Wow.
I loved cookbooks. And then I would come home, and I would make all the stuff in the cookbook. I still make the Stollen to this day. I veganized them, But
were you cooking in New York too?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I cooked I love to cook.
There was no veggie spots in New York back then.
Just
really.
all you get was broccoli and garlic sauce and peanut noodles, sesame noodles. That's what you got from
maybe a falafel?
Falafel. Definitely falafel.
Hummus.
Lots of falafel and hummus and broccoli and garlic sauce.
Wow. So then, so you live in New York, and then what makes you move to Cali? Was it a job or was it?
It was a combo of grief, to be honest. After my mom died, I was quite, I was in New York, got very sketchy for a while there.
Oh yeah.
And there was a murder in the Upper West Side of someone walking their dog, and it just was the amount of people
was time to
experiencing
go.
homelessness was really very bad, and terrible. Nothing seemed to be changing at the time.
Yeah. It was gnarly back then.
Yeah, and I was quite grief stricken. And then I did this play, the Heidi Chronicles.
Yeah.
Came to LA with the play. I was like, hey, this is kind of nice here.
First time being there in California?
Can't remember. I think I'd been as a kid, and I think I don't know. I think I'd even come out for a pilot season, but to be here and really have a job, and so we moved to LA.
Yeah, I feel like California, at least back then, was like the best kept secret. Like, I came through here on tour, and then I could never see past the buildings in Manhattan. And me and my wife were living like in a 400 square foot apartment on 4th and 2nd. We're like,
oh wow,
this is great. And then like my wife's like, we got to go. We're going to move to Cali, start a family, get a house. And I went kicking and screaming. I didn't want to leave New York at all. I love New York. That was where everything started for me, my band, just everything. But then when I came here, I was like, oh my God, I never want to leave California. Like, I don't know where else I could live, like.
It's pretty nice.
I don't like driving because I'm not a good driver. I'm a safe driver. But I do miss, the only thing I miss about New York is walking everywhere.
Yeah, and people at least walk more now.
Yeah.
Because when we first moved to LA, no one walked.
Nobody walks in LA.
No one walked. No one walked.
Yeah.
In fact, when we moved to our neighborhood, literally no one walked, and I was gonna I had this stupid idea. I was like, I'm gonna make a walking campaign, and I'm gonna be like, let's all walk on Sundays and go stop by people's porches. I'm so naive, right? You can take the small town.
That,
can't take the small town out of the girl.
Nobody walks.
Nobody walks, but people do walk now a lot more. They do walk more.
I think people are more health conscious now.
Yeah, no more But I remember coming to LA, and there was a certain kind of snobbery from New Yorkers of like, don't you hate LA? And I'd be like, oh no, I kind of like LA. And people are like, but
everybody's so fake.
Yeah, that's what they'd be like. People are superficial and fake. And like, you know what? I actually don't care. If they're polite to me, I don't care if it's fake or not.
Yeah.
It's nicer.
And it's who you surround yourself with too. Like, I hang out with so many East Coast people and just...
Well, I still love New York, but when I lived in New York, I was going to Central Park to play softball 6 out of 7 days a week.
Oh, wow.
And I realized I just really wanted to be outside in nature. And we had an apartment that had no green. And I just remember Patrick and I just being like, I just want to live somewhere where outside my window it's green and we're looking out your window
An
here.
avocado tree right here.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I just had to see nature every day. You know
what else is hard in New York, and we do this for the animals, is when you stop wearing leather and you wear canvas shoes through blizzards. It is so brutal. I hope the cows and pigs and chickens who are listening appreciate me, but all the sacrificing you do to wear those canvas shoes in the winter and the slush.
They have better versions now.
Back then it was just like
canvas shoes.
Dying out
or
here.
thrift store.
Yeah.
Hand-me-down leather.
Yeah.
I had a couple of shoe suppliers who I felt like I could wear their leather shoes because they were hand-me-downs. But
yeah. I get it. So now you're in LA.
Yes.
What year would that be?
91.
It's a great year.
Lived in New York 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. 91.
91. And so you do so many cool things, shows that I love. I'm just going to run through them real quick. LA Law, Murphy Brown, Curb Your Enthusiasm. You're on, I don't know what part you're doing, but you're on 6 Feet Under, which was one of my favorite shows.
Oh, that was one of my best jobs.
Incredible show.
I'm the opening death of season 5.
Okay, I'm going to watch that. That's an incredible show.
So it was one of our favorite shows.
Okay.
Patrick and I love that show.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a show that might not get made now, and it's so good.
I think it should be mentioned up there with Breaking Bad and Sopranos.
Agree. One of the greatest shows ever. I was so excited to be on that show.
It's a big deal.
It was fun. I mean, once again, working class actor. You come in, you come out. You don't. You're lucky to be there.
Walker, Texas Ranger, Picket Fences, Friends, The West Wing, Days of Our Lives. Those are all incredible shows.
Days of Our Lives?
I don't know. It came up for you. I don't know.
I think I just did some voices on that.
Whatever. You're on there. But say that's a great resume too.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a lot when you say it this way. When you plug it over the 25, 30 years, it's not that much. Sure. I would have liked to work a lot more than that, but at least I
you grinded, like you were like.
Well, again, it's like
hard.
working class. You work, you save your money.
Yeah.
You work, you save your money. You take a job at a bakery.
What was your goals at that point coming to LA?
Coming to LA, just to do movies. Everybody, this is interesting. This is how old I am. There used to be a a line between actors who did movies and actors who did television.
Yeah, true.
And you didn't cross those lines, you know, like so like if you want to be a movie actor, it's like you could be a theater actor and do either. But you know, movie actors did not do television.
Wow.
So funny to think of that. In fact, there was a whole bit in that in the Heidi Chronicles about like when Meryl does a television show, everyone will do television shows, but that completely changed, obviously.
Yeah, it's crazy. But like rappers doing like Ice Cube becoming an incredible actor, Will Smith like crossing those lines as well later on. You know,
well, that is a big deal too. Yeah, Phineas. I remember when Phineas was a teenager and he was, you know, music was his whole life, and then he did a little bit of acting, and we met with some people. He had a nice agent, but we met with some other people who were like, you know, you have to choose. And he was like, well, I choose music. You know, like if you have to choose, there's no choice. I'm a musician. That's what I am. But I think there were still people in the, I mean, I think it's still there a little bit. It's still a little bit like, you know, which one do you take seriously? You know, you can do the other, but which one are you? So it is. But with actors, I think it's completely gone.
Yeah. I think I don't pick Ice Cube up again. He balances both. Like he still makes music and he's still in movies. He's like the one I could think about that does both.
Yeah, he does both. Well, he's very established. I think if you're super established as a musician, maybe. Yeah. But yeah, it's easier. People are a little more. It is funny though. I do find that the music industry and the acting industry, they're very focused on their own world.
Yeah. Just one kind of thing. You mean?
Well, just like. You know, like you could.
You're fully in the music industry now. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, well that's
From
my
that
life.
World to that world, yeah.
But I mean, with my kids too. Like sometimes we'll meet people in the acting world, and they won't have a very deep understanding or knowledge about the musicians. Mm-hmm. You know, like I'm like, wow, they really. I won't name any names.
Yeah,
we like have a meeting with like someone super powerful and big in the acting production world, and their knowledge of musicians is very small.
Interesting.
Yeah, because they're laser focused. You know, they're shooting in whatever New Zealand for years, and they don't know. Yeah. You know, sometimes I'll meet people and I'm like, wow, they really don't know anything about popular.
It's so weird because it seems so hand in hand with soundtracks, just everything. I don't know.
Yeah, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's very isolated, and obviously, not everybody knows. I mean, everything about that. You know. Yeah. Other world either. And
then you also you did some teaching. Like, was Melissa McCarthy one of your students at an improv class or something?
She was, yeah. I was a groundling. When I came to LA, I took classes at the Groundlings, and you know, I'd been such a doing theater and everything, and I saw my friend in a show at the Groundlings. She was doing classes there.
That's an improv class, right?
It's improv and sketch comedy.
Okay.
It's like Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
And remember, my first love was Lily Tomlin and Laugh-In. Yeah. Right? So this had always been kind of what I wanted to do. And in the theater, I often was playing like really funny parts. Yeah. And also really dramatic parts, but often funny parts. So
what do you prefer to do? Comedy or a drama?
Comedy.
Okay.
I mean, I think mostly people would think of me as a dramatic actor, but, you know. Yeah. Depends on the part. Okay. So I took classes at the Groundlings and ended up getting into the company, and, you know, really change of focus, you know. And there you go again. I remember hearing that serious casting people in New York heard that I was in the Groundlings, and they were like, "Ew, Maggie Baird is doing sketch comedy." You know, it was like very weird. Wow. Yeah, so weird. That's completely gone.
But it's like you can't do other things. You can't try.
No, there used to be like a snobbery among things. Yeah, very very divided.
Stay in your lane, just one.
Stayed in your lane. Yeah. So I broke my lane and I got into Groundlings and totally changed, you know, my focus, and so much fun. And then I started teaching at the Groundlings, which I loved. I love teaching. Actually, that really got me into teaching. And then I found like my father was a teacher. Yeah. My brother has taught a lot. You know, my other brother's attorney, you know, kind of, I was like, oh, I actually really love teaching. It's so rewarding and fun. And awesome. You become better at what you do when you teach too.
I'm sure.
But yeah, Melissa was in my class. Now, Melissa was, first of all, that whole class was great. Like she was in one class where everyone in the class was amazing and funny. And she was brilliant. You know, like it wasn't like, I can't say I taught her anything. She was funny from the day she got there. But yeah, she's so funny.
That's amazing. I'm listening to your voice now. Like you have a really calming voice, and I saw you do like your voiceovers for like video games and stuff too.
Yes.
At some point.
I play a
You have such
character
a calming voice.
Well, thank you. Right now I feel super allergic at this time of year, but voiceovers is, I did a game called Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3. I play a character named Samara.
Nice.
In a weird world, that's where I'm the most famous. Wow. I'm not famous at all, by the way, but in one weird world.
Really? Video games?
Just in that one weird world.
Was it a badass character? Like, what was your character?
I was 4,000 years old or 400,000 years old. I talk like this. Samara. Yeah. And very beautiful. Like, it's a person. It's not me, right? Cool. Very cool character. So, there's a funny story. This is jumping ahead, but I did make a movie at one point. I wrote a movie with a friend and we made the movie.
Yep.
And it was like, we made this movie on a shoestring. And so we had a lot of people volunteering to help us. And there was
Life Inside Out?
Life Inside Out.
I do my research. Okay, go ahead.
And there was a girl working on the movie her mom had kind of volunteered her, Cassandra. She was so awesome, but she was kind of bored with us, to be honest. Like, who are these people making this movie? I don't know anything about them. She had just graduated high school, and she was doing a fine job, but I could tell she was unimpressed, right?
Yeah.
And then Billie, who was like 9 at the time, comes, Mom, come in here. You got to talk to Cassandra. Why? She doesn't believe that you're Samara in Mass Effect. And so this girl who is lovely but was unimpressed with us, I walk in and she's like, "Are you Samara?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I did like this one line from the video game. I was like, "Find peace in the embrace of the goddess," or some line, and she started crying.
What? That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a weird world. Yeah.
What kind of video game was it? Like
Mass
medieval?
Effect 2? No, it's spacey.
I never played video games.
Oh yeah, me neither. But it's cool. It's like space, and I was a Justicar. I don't know. It's a whole world.
Yeah, and then becoming a parent, does that change everything too? Your whole career and and obviously becoming a parent, you change your whole outlook on life and the world itself. But we become parents, and then
becoming a parent is. I always wanted to have kids. I always wanted to have kids, and then when my mother died, I was talking to Tig Notaro about this. It adds an urgency.
Yeah.
You just really need to have that connection.
Yeah.
I did anyway, and so having kids just became. We were older by the time we had kids. We, it took Patrick a while to come on board. Yeah. And
how long had you guys been together before that?
Ooh, gosh. 11 years, like 14, 15 years, something like that. We lived together 11 years and we were married for, I'm not good with these numbers. We were married a couple years. So, 12, 13 years. Yeah. And it took him a while to come on board. And then I was like, I'm doing it with you without you. So you're either here or you're gone, whatever. But I'm having children.
It's the best thing in the world, man.
It's the best thing in the world. It is the best. And no, if you don't have children, your life is perfect and awesome.
Totally.
But for everybody who does have children, like I recently heard that like people who have children are generally less happy.
Really?
But I also think, there's a book called All Joy and No Fun or something it's joy. It's a deep, profound joy and it's hard and it's exhausting and it's stressful and it's hard.
But it's so
brutal,
amazing.
But it's a deep experience.
The different chapters of their ages too and all that and like.
Oh yeah. It's also sad. It's like, it's ever sad, because the child you loved at 2 is no longer here. And now you love the child who's here at 3 or 4 or 8 or, 19 in my case, 23. But you also miss all those other children.
I'm so scared of that. I have this whole fear of like the leaving the nest syndrome. Like he's 18. I'm like, you can stay here as long as you want. Like there's no rush. Like you can live in the garage. Like we're so close. You know what I mean? And we, during the pandemic, Max was like, you guys should have another kid. And my wife's like, hell no, my wife's 52. She's like, I'm sorry. We gave it the opportunity. We talked about you a million times. If we could have had a girl, we would have did it, like boy and girl. But then I got the snip, and so there's no turning back after that.
It's very personal suddenly.
Whatever, people know. And so it's like, but it's the most amazing thing. I could travel with my son, take him everywhere, and just having that, and it's just magical. But people listening to you can never be mentally or financially prepared to have a kid. If you want to have a kid and you're in love and you want to make a kid with your wife or your partner, You just got to do it and you deal with it. It's like you can't stress upon just being prepared. I have to have this much money saved.
Oh God,
just
no.
do it. Just
You know what somebody said to me once? It turned out to not be true at all, by the way, but it was inspiring. She was like, babies come with a loaf of bread under their arm. Like you'll find a way. And I was like, I don't know about that. Like we didn't get any more, income, but you find a way. You find a way.
You make it work.
You make it work. And in our case, like our kids came out kind of, I don't know, intense, like high need is the term. We had high need babies, and I don't know, it made me feel very, I didn't really, it made me feel very needed, high need babies really need you, and you feel it's very, I mean, also, I do think if you have kids super young, that can be really hard because whatever. So, but we were not young. Yeah. We were very ready for our lives to be about someone else. People said, your lives are going to be so different. I was like, that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
I'm kind of sick of talking about myself and thinking about myself.
Yeah. But it doesn't really, I mean, like it didn't, we're like, it was, your life's going to be changed. We're never going to see you again. No, like the kids kind of adapt to your life too as well. And especially if you're traveling and doing stuff and like, I don't know. You know what's crazy too is that like they're always going to be our kids. Like even when Max goes on his way, I don't want to think about it. I get so emotional.
I know.
I don't know why. I'm just not ready for it. It's like I want that bond forever, and I know we're going to have that bond. Like we've always been a very open, communicative. He tells us everything. There's no secrets. There's trust. Like that is so important, man. Yeah. Like moving forward, like to be able to talk about everything. Because if your kids can't trust you to tell you something, they're going to tell somebody else. So I don't know. You have to be a role model too. It's like. That's our jobs, man. That's our number one job is to be role models. And I don't know. We don't own our kids. It's like when they're with us, we raise them the best we can. Then they go, and it's just, I don't know. It's
painful. I remember
painful.
I remember reading Facebook posts for years of people's kids going off to college. I would sob. I'd be like, it wasn't even my kid. I'd be like, oh my God, they're gonna go away. They're moving out of the house.
But on a positive note. I was thinking too the other day, then it goes back to like me and my wife before we had kids. And then we have this other chapter of our life where it's just us two again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we have that. And can we stand each other? No, we've married 25 years on Friday. So we had an anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
And my wife wanted to tell you on air that the one thing that it really annoys her about me is that I can't cook. And that's the only pet peeve she has about me. I'm a perfect husband besides that. So you're helping me fix that.
You cooked egg and whole for Mother's Day. Did you not actually make it?
No, I did. I did, but yesterday was a total flop.
I know.
The people watch. We did French
I know
toast.
why. I know why. Well,
the bread. My wife, I love you, babe, but the bread was trash. The Italian bread, something about it was just so. From the jump, it was very soft. Whatever.
Okay, but I think it was the chia seed because I think, and I thought this at the time. I didn't say it. I should have. Like the glass measuring cup. It's hard to make sure you're measuring a quarter cup in a glass measuring cup. Those are made for liquid.
Okay.
And so probably you just were shy of the chia seeds. I think you needed the ground chia seed, a real traditional quarter cup measure.
Okay.
Because I think your liquid, it was just too liquidy. I should have looked at it sooner. It was hard on the Zoom.
We were tired too. It was just.
I should have brought it all over. We could have made it now. We'll make it another day because mine was bomb. Just for the record,
it was
so good.
So what I love about you and I can relate to as this family as a plant-based family too is just raising your kids with compassion, with them knowing where things come from, with things what affects the earth, just all that, and just being honest and open and loving and letting them be wherever they want to be. And I admire that about you so much. And I can relate to that with our family too. Like. Just raise your kids to let them do what they want to do. You know what I mean? Like, it's so important.
Follow their lead.
Yeah.
And their lead changes a lot, too. I think that's important. Like, you have to go, like, what they're interested in this 6 months, they may not be interested in that 6 months. And don't, like, let them change. Let them grow. They come back. And also follow their lead, but don't overwhelm them. Just because your kid shows an interest in, like, I kind of am interested in the guitar.
Listen to this, play this.
Yeah, like, and you've got a teacher and you've got a $3,000, Rickenbacker or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that. Just, like, let them, like, find their way. It doesn't have to be a lot of money. It doesn't have to be a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And
it's so true.
Because that's another thing people do. The kid shows one little interest and before you know it.
I know.
It's too much pressure because then they're like, well, I was only a little interested because I saw the movie School of Rock. You know?
Exactly. And then you throw it out and they're like,
yeah.
That's the thing. Like me and my wife, my sons grew up on like listening to punk rock and hip hop and all types of music, The Cure, like all kinds of stuff in this house. But then he found his own. He found like Fit for an Autopsy
Oh,
and
wow.
Slayer and like this death metal stuff that I never really listened to, and now he's opened my mind to it. But he found his own thing. It wasn't like when he was raised on people like, your son doesn't like the Ramones. Yeah, he likes the Ramones. They're okay for him. But it's like, oh my God, your son doesn't like this band. No, it's just because I like it. You know, like he grew up around it.
Yeah.
And like,
and then sometimes they do. Like Patrick used to make these mixtapes for the car, you know, and had everything on it. It had probably like 80% Beatles.
Yeah.
And I mean, it had everything on it. But, you know, the Beatles were the Beatles. So there's lots of Beatles. And my kids do love the Beatles. And I think the Beatles were probably the biggest influence on their songwriting.
Yeah.
And everybody's songwriting, to be honest.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of other stuff on there. And then, they found their own music too. Billie got really obsessed with hip hop for, that was really her main interest for a long time.
Old hip hop or the newer stuff? My son likes both. I try to school him on where it comes from too, you know?
The older.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's good. I like when kids know the roots, at least the history of like where the stuff comes from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you make music too. You released your own record.
Oh, that's so embarrassing. Yeah. Yes. Well,
the We Sail album.
The We Sail. Okay.
I listened to it. It sounded good. I liked it.
Oh,
I
thank
checked
you.
it out.
Oh, that's nice.
You have a good
I can't
voice,
believe you
yeah.
even found it.
I do my research.
Wow. Okay, here's the story. I have another one besides that. So I was a teenage songwriter, but I was an actor. Remember, you didn't do both.
You did though. I love that.
But it was all very secret.
Yeah.
So I wrote all these songs when I was a teenager. I played guitar. I wrote music. Then I became an actor. And my father was always like, "Why don't you do something with your songwriting?"
That's cool.
And I was like, "Dad, I'm not gonna, I'm already rejected all the time as an actor. I don't need to have one more thing." But I continued to be a closeted songwriter. And then I wrote a song for my wedding with Patrick.
It's awesome.
And I sang a song at our wedding.
That makes me emotional thinking about it. That's awesome.
Yeah. And my father was still alive at that time. My mother, sadly, was many years gone.
Yeah.
But my father was alive at that time. And he was like, "Why your song your song is answer." My dad had this high tenor voice. My parents were great singers, actually. I was like, "Dad, I can't do it. I can't." First of all, I don't know how to do it. And I think that's what's really interesting. That's another story which I could elaborate on. But I didn't honestly know how you did it. And I will say, like, when Billie and Phineas, when things started happening for Billie, Phineas had this band for a long time and stuff. But when stuff happened for Billie, that's an apple that I brought. I was like, it was like a door opened. And we were suddenly on the other side of the door. Yeah. And it was like before that, I didn't even know there was a door. Gotcha. Like suddenly I was like, oh, this is how the music industry works. Oh. Yeah. And it was a big, steep learning curve. But honestly, before that, I had zero idea. How, because you got to, it was a different era. You can just put your song on something. Internet, people can hear, you wrote a song like, well, how do you record it? How do you find a producer? I didn't know any of that, Yeah. And so different now. Yeah. So when my father got this terminal illness, pulmonary fibrosis, I decided to make an album of songs to kind of keep my dad going. Right.
Probably very therapeutic as well, right?
Yeah, it was therapeutic for me. It was therapeutic for, my idea was that, he knew he had a terminal illness and my dad was kind of a fatalist a little bit, like, we all die. And so I was like trying to keep him interested. Yeah. So I went to the people I knew the best, which were the band at the Groundlings. Okay. And they helped me produce an album of songs. So when my dad was dying, I had an album called My Father's Daughter. Wow. And that was a whole separate set of songs. Now it's going to make me cry. Yeah. Which,
it's all good. I cry in here too all the time.
I'm kind of a crier.
Me too. I'm so freaking emotional. I was crying here the other day, crying. It's all good.
Yeah, and we played it while my dad was dying, like this.
Wow, that's beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful, man.
So anyway, that was that, and then,
for him to hear that before, that's incredible. You got to do that.
Yeah, I got to do that.
That's so
nobody
positive.
really has ever heard those songs because those never got put on any platform. But then years later,
now they're out. Yeah.
Not those songs. No, I don't think anybody's ever heard those.
Would you release them ever?
Well, no. I mean, look, I'm not as good a singer as my children. I'm not, it was just songs I wrote. I I like them. Recently I found them. I was like, oh, these are good. I was playing them. And then I made another album. Because at that point I was like, maybe I would like to try to be a songwriter. How do you do it? Because I thought, well, maybe I could write songs for commercials or songs for musicals. Because I literally had no...
But you're already using your voice in video games too. You have a good voice.
I was doing that. Well, and I was in the Groundlings. I was writing musicals all the time. Because, in the Groundlings, in sketch comedy, you write a lot of musical numbers. So I was writing parodies of the Salt Lake Olympics, parodies of Martha Stewart. And so I was writing a lot of musical parody. Yeah. So I thought, well, maybe I'll take this a little further and see where it would go. And so then I made an album, and then by then you could kind of sell a CD. Yeah. So I sort of tried to do that.
But would you feel weird about releasing them? Are you embarrassed of them? Do you like the way they sound?
Well, I mean, they're of an era. They're dated, but I mean, they're dated and they're of an era, and the production is, actually some of the production. My friend Larry Treadwell's a producer. I thought he did an amazing job on like the song "We Sail." I think kind of my favorite.
I think people be stoked to hear it, to be honest.
Well, maybe, but then I made the movie, which was kind of, So I, what I did was I started this group of people, moms and some dads, and we would go to open mic nights.
Wow.
Because we had kids, know. And I had this bunch of songs, and somebody was like, well, if you want to be a songwriter, you have to get out there in the world, right? You got to go perform, even if you don't really want to perform, if that's not the thing you want to do. Because I really just wanted to be a songwriter at that point. And you got to go out. And so I was like, okay, but I'm never going to do it because I have kids, and I'm always going to cancel because my kids are sick or my kids don't want me to go. That was your number one
priority. You put everything to the side.
Everything was my kids, everything was just kids. And so I was like, okay, I formed a group of other moms, homeschooling moms and stuff, who sang or played guitar or did something, and a couple of parents.
Was there a name of it, the group?
It was like a temporary name, the Performers Collective.
Okay, cool.
We always thought we'd find a good name. And it was like, okay, we book a bunch of slots on an open mic night. Yeah. And we'd all go together and we'd practice together. So like I would play guitar for one woman, and she would sing harmony for me. And so we had to both show up, right? Because we were committed. Yeah. So that was the whole idea, kind of, teamwork. Yeah. And then we would go do these open mic nights and sing our songs, and some people were doing covers. I was doing my own songs, and we take the kids, the kids would come, and
awesome.
Yeah, it was a fun family adventure,
You can still be creative too and do the stuff you love.
Yeah, it was super fun. And then that kind of inspired the movie and Phineas, so that's
but you're still working as the kids are growing up. You're still doing stuff.
I was always teaching.
Mm-hmm. And you did Bones too. That was a big show.
I did Bones, I did Bones. And I taught, I taught music. I taught music together for 6 years, which is like a family music program. Okay. I stopped teaching improv. I started teaching music. Nice. And I also got into aerial circus. I started taking classes with my kids. I got obsessed with that.
Is that like flying around like Pink does?
It's like what Pink does, yeah. Wow. But more like not so much flying. It's just doing it static. And awesome. I took a class at Focus Fish with my kids, and they liked it. I loved it. So I just kept doing that until I was like organizing classes for them and assisting teaching, and then I was teaching classes. So teaching became like, I'm teaching aerial, I'm teaching improv, I'm teaching songwriting at the kids homeschool group. Wow. I'm teaching drama, I'm teaching cake baking. Yeah,
you did every aspect of the music biz, and I don't know, it's everything behind.
If I could do it, I taught it. It was like I taught ukulele once to like 200 people in a park. Wow. I bought them all like $10 ukuleles, and I taught them the basics of the ukulele.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you're always trying to learn more, it seems.
I love to learn new things. It's really the thing I like best is kind of learning something new. I'm a little tired of it right now. I've had to learn so much this year.
Yeah. But now you're like manager. Basically,
I'm not their manager. Okay. They have amazing managers, but I'm definitely on their team, right? On Billie's team. Yeah. So they have an amazing management team. But you know how it is. In the beginning, when we went on tour, it was Billie, Phineas, and me going to Australia. Yeah. The managers can't afford to fly a bunch of people to Australia.
Totally.
And then we had a tour manager. And then it was me, Billie, Phineas, and the tour manager. In the front of house.
You've been doing most of the tours in the beginning.
I've gone on every tour.
It's amazing.
I've never missed a day of tour except one show they had to go do, and I had to do something else once. Yeah.
Because what do they call it? Momager? What do they call it?
Yeah, I'm not a momager.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you're just a supporter and you're there. I think it's so important.
I'm not a
For so many
momager, but I am
reasons.
super involved because, there's just so much to do that there's no way you can do it all. Listen, your managers, and I cannot say enough good things about the team, but ultimately no one has your back like your parent,
100% agree.
They have conflicts of interest. They just do.
Yes.
For the best case scenario, they're going to make a commission on something.
Yep.
They might have other people they're trying to please.
Yeah.
They're trying to make things happen. And, no shade. You have to have that.
Totally.
But who is the person who's really like best interest for you? And to be honest, sometimes that best interest is, I also have to help. I've had to help Billie understand why something might be important to do that she maybe doesn't want to do.
Yeah.
And where, the managers might have given up on that because they're like, they don't want to force her to do it. No one's forcing her to do it. But I go like, let's look at the context of your whole life.
Love it.
Is this important, for your whole life? Is something that you're going to do here going to benefit you here?
Yeah.
Even if you don't feel like it today? So the person who
Love
can
that.
give context and also go like, she's not getting enough sleep. Don't book any interviews before noon ever,
Yeah.
She
I love
can't.
that.
She can't burn these bridges, or not bridges. Burn
You're
the
a mom.
candle.
It's like you have her best interest.
Yeah,
Always.
yeah. And you also see them, and when like she's suffering in a way they can't possibly know.
Yeah.
They don't see her. They don't see the effects. Sometimes I'd look at the schedule, and it'd be like we'd look at a tour schedule and be like, it's going to tour these shows, and in the beginning it's brutal. It is brutal
Totally.
because you have to do that to get But it'd be like, show, all day photo shoot, interview. And I would go like, you see this schedule? You see this day here? She's going to be sick on that day. I can tell because she's not going to get enough sleep. She's going to get she's going to get sick. And so, we all learn together and you gradually get a sense of like, first of all, you get a little more power and control, but people learn like and my kind of goal is, and it happens that everybody on the team is now looking out for the same things,
Yeah.
and the same with the greening and the plant-based food. Like, honestly, it used to be like, we need vegan food. We need, and then it was like, we want vegan food for everybody on our tour.
Backstage and catering and everything. Yeah.
And it was a little bit of a struggle. And now we have meetings with our tour team and they are on top of it. They're like,
so cool.
Maggie, we've made sure that this is happening and this is happening, and they ask all the right questions, and are you comfortable doing this because of this, and we've gotten them to change this, and
So awesome.
the whole team is so great about it.
But just by asking, like you did originally when you sent that letter about seeing that movie, just say, hey, we want to do this. You can't, if you don't ask, you never know. You know what I'm saying? Like now everybody's eating the plant-based stuff. They probably have no problem.
No, and all our shoots are this way, and all of our, everything, even a shoot for a magazine, we go like, hey, it's Billie said plant-based, and and we want conscious cleanup there to make sure that we've got composting and, everything has to be sustainable. And you have to kind of follow through too. Like recently we're on a shoot and it was like, hi, do you have our new writer? And they're like, I think so. I'm like, because I don't see a compost bin and a recycling and a thing in our green room, right?
Yeah.
And they get it, and now hopefully they'll get it for everybody. So,
and you homeschool both them, huh?
We did. We homeschooled.
So you were the teacher, basically.
Well,
Sometimes.
we call it unschooling.
Unschooling.
Unschooling, world schooling. So,
okay.
like just like you're the teacher, right?
Yeah.
It's like your kid asks about something and you show them, you explain it. Something comes up about the moon and suddenly you're learning all about the moon. It's just life. It's like approaching it like life. So if you go, wow, I just found out my children don't know anything about geography, right? Mm-hmm. Because they didn't know. We said something and they didn't know. I was like, okay, oh shoot, we better figure that out. Like, let's start to find a way to learn about that. And so either it's their interest led, or you're like, this is something you kind of need to know at this age, or this is really important in society to know that. Let's find a way to learn that. Let's find a way to make it fun and interesting. And
so they never went to a physical school.
No, they never went to physical school. They did go to a couple places that were like homeschool resource centers or co-ops, all the kids get together in a day and there's all kinds of classes to choose from. And, some kids are some kids are choosing to take chemistry and biology, and my kids are going like, I've got sewing and drama and cooking and and geography. They did take the geography because it was really fun. But interest led. Because the thing about kids is that the kid who's going to grow up to be an astronaut or a doctor or a physicist, that kid is interested in the things that are going to get them there.
100%.
That kid's going to show you that that's what they are into.
Yeah.
And they're not going to balk at taking higher math or because that's going to be interesting to them.
Yeah, totally.
The kid who's never going to use that in their entire life is going to show you, I don't care about that.
Yeah.
Pretty good chance you're not going to go into a career that needs that.
Yeah.
If you can't stand it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird. It's like it's kind of a way of looking at things that is a bit anathema to our society, which is like you need to spend the most time on the things that are hard. It's like, do you though?
Yeah.
Because the thing that's easy for you, like what was easy for you growing up?
Skateboarding.
Skateboarding, okay. and music probably in a way,
well, that was
right?
later on, for
and
sure.
And easy in a different way. Not that it's easy to learn, but it's easy because you enjoy it.
Because I love it.
Right? And if the thing you're going to spend all those hours doing, probably going to find your career in that.
Yeah.
And it may not be being, a rock star.
Yeah.
It might be an engineer or being, on a tour manager.
Yeah, something in that. Yeah. That's amazing. And then what about plant-based? Is that something that you guys wanted to do from the beginning when they're born? We're going to raise them like this?
Well, we were, Patrick came on board being a vegetarian after a few years being with me. And also mainly it wasn't even me. It was that he was doing a play in Louisville and he was staying near a slaughterhouse.
Wow.
And that did it.
That's a reality.
That did it more than me. He came home
amazing.
After that and did it. Yeah. Had to ride his bike by the slaughterhouse every day.
Smell it. Oh my God.
That did it. But yeah, so there was I know a lot of people where one person's a vegan or vegetarian, the other isn't, and they raise them not. And I'm like, how do you do that? I don't get that because it's so part of our philosophy,
100%.
And so, it was no question that we would raise them that way. Some people would say like, well, why don't they have a right to choose? And I'm like, yeah, when they're 18, they can choose whatever they want, but I'm responsible for their physical and moral well-being
and mental everything.
And mental. And when I look at my life, if I could go back in time and uneat meat, I would. And so if they never eat it while they're with us, then they don't have to have that regret and they can choose what they choose after that.
100% agree.
But for the responsibility of me, that's not going to be part of what you do.
100%. Like Max is 18 now. He can do what he wants. He can do what he wants, even whatever. But like he's like, I'm never doing it. He never had it. He won't even eat Impossible meat. He thinks it looks like meat. You know what I mean?
He's like me.
So it's like going out into the world and stuff. He knows everything. He's been to, we do the pig vigils. He's been to slaughterhouses.
That is intense.
He's been to all that. It's so emotional. You've been to one of those at Farmer John's?
I have not been.
It's horrifying.
I'm honestly like, I just don't think I can do it. I know I just can't.
And it doesn't make you more vegan. It makes you more angry and sad.
Yeah.
Like my thing is I bring people who aren't, I have a lot of friends who aren't vegan. I bring them down and they go and they're like, holy crap.
Well,
so that makes, that's more of it's hard. Like you give them water and apples and it's just this moment.
I can't even like go there right now.
But my son, he's like, yo, fuck giving them water and apples. I'm going to jump over the fence and I'm going to steal a fucking pig or a cow. Like my son's like super, he gets hardcore. I'm like, you can't do that. Like he wants to go like rescue because you can't do that. But yeah, it's this moment. So I'll cry talking about it. It's a moment where they have interaction with a human that's like this, it's loving. They get water and apples, but then they go and they're gone. But they at least have one moment where they know all humans aren't pieces of shit. And they have this moment.
Wow, that's so beautiful and so sad.
Yeah, it makes me, it's heavy. The first time I went, I was so numb for like a week. I was fucking so numb. I was calling everybody about, you have to come do this thing. And like, I'm happy I did it. Do I have to do it again? I'm not sure. I'll bring more friends, but we started getting the water bottles. We got really into it. Yeah, it's like...
but the thing we can do, and this is what we're trying to do... is we can get people to understand without doing that. Like,
yes.
Like we can get people to stop eating it and stop the demand for it and understand, like, you don't need to eat it. Yeah. I don't care what your reason is, you're eating it. Like, well, I do care. If you in a culture where it's a different culture, okay, we'll have a different conversation. Yeah. But for most people, there's no good reason you can give me. And if it's taste, okay, there's plenty of substitutes.
It's impossible, yeah.
Plenty of things you can taste, you know. But to kill that beautiful animal and cause that tremendous suffering,
yeah,
you know, and so
especially even now in this day and age,
now it's so unnecessary.
There's so many other options. There's so many. I think it's just convenience. The one thing that made this convenience. People are so used to this.
It's convenience, and it's the total desensitizing. It's the total, you know, I mean, you know, you see it all the time. People, you know, we had a little kid who was our neighbor. We loved her. She was over, they moved, but she was over one time and we were talking about vegetarian or chicken or something.
Yeah.
And she said, like, do you mean chicken? Is chicken? Like, she had no idea.
Like the chickens in the farm books
the chicken,
and all that.
chicken in the farm book and the chicken she ate. She did not equate them with each other. And,
crazy.
you know, that's what we do to people. We hardcore, you know, we anthropomorphize animals wanting us to eat them. You know, the ads where the chickens are trying to be, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and they anthropomorphize them to want to be killed and eaten or drink my milk. But
I love your approach with support and feed and everything. We talk about that, but your support is like, you're not preachy, you're not shoving shit down people's throats. Yours is leading by example. This is where I live my whole life. This is where I raise my children. And I think that's an incredible approach, because I think more people open-minded check things out if they're not force-fed down their throat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think in general it is a definite balance. I think if you're too hardcore about stuff, you're going to just turn people off.
But it's hard when you're so compassionate, when you're trying to show things. It's not coming from like, dude, it's coming from like, yo, this is really happening. Like, really check this out, you know? Like,
well, also, I think there's, you know, to be fair, there are people in the movement, there are strategies that are so extreme that they do alienate people, and they're not conducive to people making change, and they're not appreciative of people making change. You know, that whole culture we have now, and it's not just in the plant-based world. It's in everything. Yeah. You know, you speak out about this. Oh, but you didn't speak out about this. You spoke about
that. Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't do enough.
You forgot the hashtag, all that.
Yeah. You did this, but it wasn't good enough. It wasn't this. It wasn't that. Like,
so
we bust people for what they don't do rather than for what they do positively. 100%. And it's definitely true in the plant-based world. It's like, you know, great that you did this, but you didn't do this. It's like, okay, let's focus on what we did do, and then let's give that positive reinforcement. Like, wow, the change you made this big an impact.
Yes.
And wow, if you do that again, you'll
even
make
the Meatless Mondays.
Yeah, Meatless Mondays, great. Like,
all that shit.
We have a very close friend of Billie's who's doing Meatless Mondays for the first time, and in her life is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. And she's like, I'll inch my way
Baby
there.
steps, man.
I'll go to Meatless Mondays, then I'll go to 8 meals, #8 meals, you know. I'll work my way up, you know. And we have to applaud it. I support anybody
trying to change, man. Even for your health, for the animals, for the plant, whatever you're doing it for, you're saving lives of animals, and that's the number one mission. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, how or why you're doing it.
Yeah, well, the number one mission, you know, it's all of those, right? I mean, currently, you know, our focus with Support and Feed is, well, it's food justice. It is also climate change, the climate crisis.
Yeah.
Listen, the tragedy of animal exploitation is horrific. We are also facing the destruction of the planet now.
100%.
And it's imminent. It's not far in the future. It's imminent. Yeah. And we have to act fast and diligently, you know?
Yeah.
So I think at least a lot of people are getting that message, you know? You can't, and the food justice, you can't be espousing, you know, all these things and then not look at your diet, you know?
100%.
You can't be, you know, driving your electric car and all these things and eating a hamburger. They don't go together. A
lot of water it takes to make one hamburger.
Yeah, I saw something on a site that I love, an Instagram, a thing that I love, and they were touting a biodegradable grill or something, but it had meat on it. It's like, no, can't talk about the environment and have meat on that grill.
Why don't you think people put that together? Put those two and two together.
I do not know. It's so ingrained.
Like, take your short showers and all this stuff, and it's
and what are you eating?
It's so great, and we sound like we're judging people. We're not. We're baffled ourselves. It's like this has been going on for so many years, and just putting the two and two together, that the effects that it has.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, 35 years ago, I was wearing a shirt that said, like, stop eating McDonald's hamburgers, destroying the Amazon rainforest. We have known this for a long time. Yeah. It's just that we're like, you know, we're actually at the crisis now.
Yeah, I think social media definitely helps get in the positive way to get that information out, you know?
Yeah, and it's so scary. I think the hard part now is it's so scary, and it's just really important to feel hopeful. And so to me, the hopefulness is that so many people are doing it, and so many, you see the change, and it's happening fast, you know?
So fast.
It's like you know, we have the momentum. We are.
Especially coming out of a pandemic too.
Oh, yeah.
More people more conscious, I think, of everything.
More people, like we were saying yesterday, I think they're more compassionate.
Yeah.
They're more aware of.
And want to be healthy and whatever that in their immune system. It's just everything.
Well, today is the announcement of the music climate revolution with Reverb and all these artists, including Billie and Phineas, you know, signing on to make their tours climate positive.
That's
and,
awesome.
You know, it's definitely a change. You know,
can you break that down a little bit? The Reverb stuff. I spoke to that guy. He's amazing, by the way.
Is he amazing? Adam? Yeah. It's getting artists to sign up to make their tours climate positive, which means, you know, all the things that get you there. You know, from making sure you have no plastic water bottles in your venues. You know, single-use plastic water bottles.
Liquid Death Live Nation. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Liquid Death. You know, and that you have water refilling stations, and
you guys have that,
and we have all vegan catering, and we pay our carbon offsets, and we have the food in the venue is plant-based food, and you know, you're addressing all the issues. You have composting, you have recycling.
Awesome.
On your tour buses too, you know.
Yeah.
Reverb sets us up, and they follow through, and also supports a bunch of environmental BIPOC charities. Awesome. The same Music Climate Revolution. So it's pretty extensive.
That's incredible, yeah.
And you know, it's like we're going to come out of this. You know, touring has always been a bad climate move, right? Yeah. Everyone knows it, you know?
Yeah.
So how can we address it and make it a positive thing?
I love that. And then talk about Support and Feed a little bit, which I think is incredible.
Yay. Okay.
Doing so much with that so fast.
So fast, so
like
overwhelming. So many people working on it. You know, we started it, right at the start of the pandemic. Came home from tour, which we were all about, you know, greening the tour and all this stuff. And then we came home, we're like, oh gosh, this is going to be devastating. And it has, by the way, the COVID has been devastating for the climate, of course.
Yeah.
And for food insecurity. So we were like, wow, Billie and I were talking, we're like, this is going to be so bad for so many people are going to be hungry, and restaurants are going to go out of business. And I was like, what if we like order food from Sage and we have it sent to somewhere? And we found a place to send it. We sent it to the Midnight Mission. And I was like, this is a good idea, but it really needs to go further. Like and so we, within a week, we had this amazing team of people, the amazing Jeanette, who's sitting right here.
What's up, Jeanette?
Right away, and Rose, and we have Nick, and everyone was on board. Justin, these great people who just signed on, like, I'm going to help. And within a week, we had meals going out. We were taking donations, arranging for there to be donations, either through the restaurants or through us directly, to buy plant-based food from restaurants. So it was high quality, and it would support all the community of the restaurant. That's the workers, the farmers, everybody involved, and take it to community orgs where people are experiencing food insecurity. As we went along, and we also took to frontline workers in the beginning.
Yeah.
As we went along, we really paired our mission. We were like, wow, you know, the places that need this are the communities have food apartheids, lack of access to healthy food. Let's partner with organizations that are already doing amazing work in those areas, see what they need, what we can provide. And so it really grew. We expanded to New York and Philly and Washington, D.C., you know, feeding so many people, and then adding, because the organizations were asking, their families wanted more information about plant-based food. And so providing information about it, about, you know, where appropriate, about the climate effects of animal agriculture, but more importantly for this, the health benefits for the people receiving it.
Yeah. And
making sure it's high quality, delicious food. Like we, we taste the food. Like, is it good? We want people to go, because that's where we can make the difference. If
100%.
people go, this food is amazing. Not only am I getting a meal, but I'm getting a restaurant quality. Someone cares about me, first of
100%.
all. They went for the real deal. And it's delicious, you know, and now we've labeled it, you know, you can see what it is. It's plant-based, no animal products.
Important.
It goes into my mind, you know, delicious food. You deserve plant-based food, you know?
Yeah.
This is the good stuff, because
there's so many stereotypes about vegan food, man. Like
so many stereotypes. But the truth is,
everything.
So much non-vegan food is horrible. You know, Jeanette and I found ourselves in a situation, you know, won't go into it, but, you know, we were exposed to some of the food people were being given that was government subsidized, and it was pretty awful.
Yeah.
It was not healthy. it was, first of all, meat, milk, and dairy, and, stuff that people often are.
The 4 food groups you have to have.
Yeah, they're often lactose intolerant, people eating food, and so we wanted our food to be delicious, first of all, and nourishing. And so that's the mission. It's like feeding people who need food and making sure it's healthy, nourishing food, and that it comes with a major impact, because we're not just about that one meal. We're about you getting your next meal, and asking the other organizations that might provide food for plant-based food.
Yeah.
We want people to know, ask for the good stuff. You deserve the good stuff, right? You deserve the really high quality, delicious, nourishing food. Mm-hmm. You expect that from every time you get food, right? Yeah. Seek it out, and we want other organizations to do the same. And you know what? If they all did it, and overnight, that would be amazing. And that's
so
our goal.
It's so awesome. Just like you said, giving the good quality stuff, not just, it's just...
And we can feed so many people. We all know that the food chain of animal agriculture is disastrous for the planet, and it's disastrous for humans. Yeah. We could feed so many more people with the plants that we're currently feeding to animals, I mean, slightly different form, obviously, but it's just not a good system. It's actually, you talk to some organizations that are doing wonderful work, but they haven't really taken this into their system yet. And again, it's like it's like doing a short shower and then eating a hamburger. It's like, there's no sense in that. If you're in a sustainability food movement and you're not talking about plant-based food, you're missing something,
Yeah, do you think that the word plant-based is way more accepting to people than the word vegan sometimes?
It definitely seems that way. It does. I think maybe it's switching.
Less threatening to people, maybe.
It's less threatening, but now it's also getting overused and maybe misused a little bit. Like people think, it means like it's salad, but it can have cheese on it or something. So it's a little bit tricky, because I think people are more open to it, but then it's going to get co-opted. Mm-hmm. So I personally am trying to use them both. Yeah. I say plant-based food and then I go vegan food, because people go, oh, vegan food is plant-based food. I get it. Yeah. Demonize the word vegan. I don't know why it became a joke. I was even thinking, you know what? I feel like my job should just be coming up with ideas for people to do, because I now I'm like, we need to start a movement in the entertainment industry to stop making fun of vegans and vegetarians as a joke, right? It has been the butt of the joke for my whole adult life.
I agree.
It's like you can't make fun of anybody for all kinds of things. Appropriately, you shouldn't be able to. True. But you can always make fun of the vegan, right?
It's so true.
And listen, I mean, I've even seen, people do it. There's a certain stereotype that maybe is easy to make fun of. I get it. The person who's like hardcore and is very...
how you know somebody's vegan? They tell you they're vegan.
They tell you they're vegan in this too. Yeah, it's easy to make fun of. I get it. I totally do get it. But there's also kind of the butt of the joke is always the vegan. You see it so much in media. It's like, guys, what are you really promoting? It is
interesting, right?
Yeah. Oh, you take it for granted too. You take for granted how much. I mean, people drink a lot on TV too. These things are like. They're drinking all through their talk shows all morning, less during COVID. But, it's like there's certain things that we just like, are these good for society?
Mm-hmm. It's great support if you came out of the pandemic. It's such a positive, amazing thing, man.
Came out of the pandemic and we had an amazing year. We fed so many people, 60,000 meals in the calendar year of 2020. But I think more importantly, 60,000 meals is... It was the impact of those meals again. Yeah. That it wasn't just a meal. It was nourishing a soul. It was exposing someone to another possibility. Yeah. And that's what we can do more than some other operations can. We'd love to be able to feed millions and millions of meals. That would be ideal. But until we can make every meal more impactful. Yeah. Give people tools to help their own lives. And that's what we do with our social media.
Yeah,
thanks
really
to Jeanette
do.
again. We have our
Jeanette, killing it.
you know, that you guys, you and Max have been on. You
love
know,
it.
our social media is amazing because we have all these people, young people who are hungry to learn.
Mm-hmm.
They want to support the environment. They want to be more compassionate.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just don't have the tools. And so the social media is a great way to, you know, help people learn on their journey. You know, if they make their French toast vegan, you know.
Or try to.
Try to.
Do you have any daily rituals? That's a random question. It's probably my question.
Daily rituals. I do drink matcha every day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty addicted to matcha lattes. Yeah, that's a ritual. I try to meditate. I don't do it every day.
My wife does that. It's hard.
It's hard to do it every day, but I do it fairly.
How about yoga?
I don't do yoga, but I was injured for a while, but
Okay.
I'm back to aerial again finally after a couple years.
Nice.
So that takes some inching up too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's a parenting thing that's a bit tricky, right? Because I'm still a very involved parent,
Yeah.
and your life tends to be hard to ritualize because you never know when they're going to need something, you know? And that's certainly true for little kids, but even teenagers are...
You're on call 24/7.
I always want to say to people, like, you know, teenagers are harder than toddlers or as hard. I don't know. It looks like maybe you got away pretty easy, but I found those years of 13 to 15, 16 intense, very intense.
Yeah.
A lot of emotional things going on for teenagers.
I agree.
It's hard. And it's hard to, you know, that saying, you're only as happy as your least happy child, you know.
What do you think the key is to be? What's some advice you give being a parent, especially parents of two successful musicians and artists too? Like, and I love just seeing the doc. It was very emotional to watch. It was a beautiful doc, and just seeing how you guys still live in the same place and you guys grew up there, and it's this tight family, regardless of all the insanity that's going around. It's a very humble, loving, tight family. It's beautiful, man.
Oh, thank you.
It really is. And that's credit to you guys as parents, you know?
Well, thank you. I mean, we've tried. I would
It's
say
working.
I'd say first of all, we did some parenting classes that really
wow.
really helped.
Okay.
Yeah, really helped. When we had two children, when you have this, like, no matter how hard your first one is, high need, challenging, intense, it's okay. You get two, you know, you're like, oh, I need a little help. So we went to, it was called the Center for Nonviolent Education and Parenting. Now it's called the Echo Center.
Oh, wow.
And it's based on the work of Marshall Rosenberg, who wrote Nonviolent Communication. And that was profound for us. I think that really influenced everything we do and everything we did in our parenting. And it really made the difference.
Wow.
I highly recommend parenting classes by something like a nonviolent communication philosophy.
Yeah.
That it's really helpful to everything in the way you think about things, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's this philosophy of like we all have the same universal needs.
Yeah.
And everything we do is a strategy to meet our needs, right?
I love
and
that.
there are some strategies that are more effective than others and some strategies that are healthier than others, but they're all just strategies, right? So anything anyone's doing is a strategy to meet their need. And is there another strategy maybe, you know?
Yeah.
And being empathetic. It's all about being empathetic.
100%.
So those were, I cannot recommend that enough.
Wow.
And the other thing is sort of silly, you know, I mean, sing, make music, play, have fun with your kids.
Yeah.
And be creative, join in. And also, listen, I think it's harder for parents now because of phones and technology. That only crept into our lives about, you know, teenage years.
Yeah.
I think that's really hard.
So hard.
And to
get them off it, you mean?
And to delineate between what is fun and creative, and of course they're doing it, and then what is like, you know, the parents on the phone, the kids on the phone, the kids.
What
on
is
the
real
iPad.
life and what isn't?
What is real life? Yeah, I think that is the biggest parenting challenge people face
agree,
now,
man.
and I would even be hesitant to say much because I don't feel like I had to encounter it the way people do now.
Yeah.
You know, you got to make more life
Disconnecting
interesting, I guess, and but also like we didn't live in a big house, and although that has its challenges, especially now, it's nice to have your kids close.
I
You know,
agree.
kids can get really far away in big houses, and you don't know what they're up to. And
Yeah.
you know, I mean, like really, you want to be the person they comes to, and that you see what's going on, and that you know, a lack of, it's just, I just think it can be easy for people to get too distant from their, a lot of our society.
Phones make the distance too sometimes.
Phones for sure. And because you don't know who they're talking to. You don't know who.
It's scary. There's so much stuff on there.
And we have a whole society that promotes this kind of weird independence. Like, of course you want your kids to grow up to be self-sufficient and critical thinkers and all that. But this weird disconnect of closeness of parents, of push away. We had a family bed. We were long-term, a nurse for a long time. Like, it was about connection, attachment parenting, right? And that continued on. Like, you want to be involved in your kid's life. You want to be close. People have this kind of like, send them off to camp and send them away and send them to do this. And the more hours they're at school, the better. And the more hours we don't have to see them. It's like, nah.
I don't like that.
No, hang with them. Get the best hours of their life, not just the hardest, right? Like, that was the homeschooling thing. It's like, it's sometimes the hardest hours of the day are like getting them out the door to school and then home with the homework. And we're like, we also want the good parts. Like, we want to drive you to your homeschool sports class and, play catch.
I already missed that already, man. With no school last year. I would drive Max every day, but there's no school last year. So like now he's a senior graduating online school. It just, I'm never going to have those moments again. Let's listen to music, driving to school anymore. Yeah.
You want to work that into your life as much as possible.
It's good that Billie's her age and she's still at home. He's 18. I'm like, see, you don't have to move out yet. Like, you can stay as long as you want. I'll build some of the garage. Like that scares me so much because like, I don't know. He's my only kid,
Yeah. Well, Phineas moved out at 21.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. And as somebody said, when Phineas was a baby, we went up to Seattle. My husband was doing a play. And we met some people in there. We had Phineas in a sling, little baby, And they're like, oh, our youngest just left for college today. And of course I start crying. Like, I'm already worried, like, and I was like, how do you cope with it? And he was like, they wean you. And, I didn't really find that so much.
Did you have that leaving the nest thing?
Yeah. Like, I think that there, but I think there is, but Phineas, when he was 21, they start to, I don't know. It was hard. I'm not going to be. Yeah. It was definitely hard, but it was great to live in the same city. I really feel for people who like they go. I left
the country.
I left home. I went off to college. I didn't. I didn't come back.
I came about that. Like
I came back for like Christmas break and a little in the summer, but I was mainly gone.
Like you really think about what your parents thought when you left. You're going to do live your life. Yeah. But then when you become, like.
Yeah,
oh, man.
I remember.
Please don't do that to me.
Don't do what I did. Yeah. I remember crying. My mom was crying. I was driving away. And then I went off, and it was all great, but it wasn't also great. You need your parents for a while. There's a lot of stuff in life. My kids are in the music industry. Yeah. Billie especially was so young, but. What kid at 19 is going to do their taxes?
No. It's crazy how many kids don't drive now. I don't know if it's a California thing. Kids are Ubering, getting rides with friends. Like nobody wants to get their license. Like
because they're so connected on their social media. It used to be you had to drive to go see somebody.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't hang out virtually.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
Was there one moment where you realized your kids were going to do this for a living? They're going to be music. This is what they were going to do. At a young age, saw something or
well, Billie never did. She sang.
Yeah.
All the time. She sang more than talked. She sang everything,
Yeah.
She sang What You Wanted for Breakfast. She sang.
Okay.
But, I wasn't thinking career. Just was fun. And then she was in the choir. And Phineas at 3 was obsessed with music. They say what you have when you're 3 is what you can have when you're 13. Very true for both of our kids.
Okay.
At 3, Phineas wanted for Christmas a conducting baton
and
a hi-hat cymbal and a throne. That's what he wanted for Christmas. And it was my father's last Christmas.
Wow.
And we went to Colorado, and my father, had oxygen, and and Phineas was conducting him with his baton. He was 3, and that was everything. And then that kind of changed. He got into other things, but when he was like 12, he just became laser focused on music.
Yeah.
And then Billie. So, but again, what is that going to turn into?
Yeah.
Choir, musical theater, making music. I didn't know this was going to happen.
Yeah.
And also, to be real, I spent my adult life as an actor.
Yeah.
And in the acting business, people get famous and are successful, sometimes with very little talent. Hugely talented people barely get a break.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of
Great
consistent,
point.
so we weren't living in a business where it was like, you work hard and this happens. It's just not that way in the acting business.
Yeah.
It just really isn't.
It's a grind. It's like one job to the next. When you get paid again.
Yeah.
All that.
And it's just, not to say that there aren't extremely talented people who become extremely successful, but there's also extremely talented people who absolutely do not. So
Never get a shot.
So I didn't have a real feeling of like, just do this and this will happen.
Yeah.
Ever. It's like, so really I had do what you love. Do what you love. Do it because you love it.
Love it.
The reward is in the doing. The reward is always in the doing.
Yeah.
And the what comes out of it, look, if you love to make music and you never make money at it, then you'll make music and you'll make money do something else.
Totally.
That's what I did. I love to make music. I love to write songs. I did it for fun.
Yeah. You think it's true when they say you never work a day in your life if you do something you love? Is that because you work so hard and your family works so hard?
Well, I think it's not really true because that would be true if it was straightforward.
Yeah.
You'll never work a day if you do something you love and it's the kind of thing that you can just do.
Yeah.
Somewhat true in music, but you might have to go work a day in your life to be able to afford it.
Yeah.
You got to work.
Yeah.
If you make, I did a lot of jobs. I taught a lot of things. I happen to like teaching, but there was a time we went from being like working class actors, both sort of making enough, to then there was a time when it really wasn't enough. And so, I just added teaching to what I did.
Do you still want to act now? Or are you kind of done with that chapter and this became what you're doing now?
No, I mean, I it's complicated now. I still
so
do.
Busy.
Yeah, I still do act as a voiceover.
Okay.
ADR looper.
Awesome.
Kind of how I make a living.
Okay.
How I get my health insurance, I would say more. But I don't have a lot of time for it. So I certainly can't do it when I'm on tour. But I love to act. I did that Zach Galifianakis thing that I got cut out of.
I would love to see that though. I love him between the front. I love that.
Yeah. Well, it was a scene like they had a family dinner. It's all gone. But I've done a few things still.
But you're so busy. Do you actually sleep? Like, do you get good hours of sleep?
No, I definitely don't get enough sleep. It's a problem. It is.
Like, it seems like
also,
you're grinding.
by the way, we came home from tour and Billie on the way home. Okay, we took the tour bus home because the pandemic. We were in North Carolina. I think it was like tour's over, go home. I was like, we're just gonna stay in this tour bus and drive home because we can go to an airport and that was scary, right?
No.
So we took the tour bus home. It was great because it was full of food. So we came home with like full of food, and
you
on
park
the
on the street. No.
yeah, well they dumped us off, but on the way home, Billie calls Angel City Pitbulls. Hey, do you have any fosters? We had 2 foster puppies the next morning.
Oh my God.
And we have our old dog, our wonderful dog Pepper, and a cat. And we had 2 foster puppies, which was amazing. But Mom did not want Billie to not sleep because, she needs her sleep. She's a growing girl. So I took on the job of, the 2-hour waking up to go pee and poop and feed. And so I didn't really get a lot. And then we started support and feed, and that was the end of sleep. So for this year, when so many people were like, oh, I got so much sleep this year, I was like, I got no sleep this year. It was so stressful. But
when's the last time you did vacation?
Vacation. Vacation is not something we've ever done much of, to be honest. Bad, because you're a stupid actor. This is the one thing I hate about being an actor. I hated that you could never commit to things, like we'd go on a family vacation and sure enough, got a big audition, got to go home, or like got a job, need the health insurance, have to go home and do it. And we didn't have much money. So vacations were like going to visit some friends or relatives in the East Coast. But we did take a few days this summer. I don't know, this winter, this spring. Well, I don't know what season it is.
Who knows?
We did go stay somebody offered us to stay in their house for a few days.
That's cool.
And our whole family went, and that was really, really nice.
Staycation type thing?
A staycation. Wasn't very far away.
Okay.
Yeah, and
awesome.
It was nice.
Wow.
But vacations, like we've gotten some vacations in on tour, like we worked them in, like Not in the
sightseeing
beginning.
in different countries or whatever?
Not in the beginning. It was, but we'd be like, okay, when we're in Australia, let's have this one day and we'll like make the most of it. We'll go take a boat and go snorkeling. So.
One of my final questions is, you consider yourself an optimist or pessimist, but you are a total optimist. You are so positive. Your energy is contagious, and that's what I love about you. I'm a big on the positive mental attitude and seeing the good in everything and living in my little positive bubble and trying to make the world a better place. And you have that so much.
Well, I think I do. I am by nature, I think, pretty optimistic. Though I know you're really into mental health, I've definitely had mental health challenges. I've definitely suffered from clinical depression, et cetera, at times. And, it's something I'm very aware of. So I don't think they're disconnected. One is chemical and, but yeah, I think I am definitely optimistic by nature, which is funny because I think some of my family is not.
Yeah, me too.
And I think some people who are not think of people who are as kind of stupid.
And annoying.
Annoying, yeah. Like I think
too happy or
too happy. And I mean, I'm not like jolly happy, but because I'm also into comedy and, that's by nature kind of cynical in a way. But I just by nature kind of am forgiving and look at the bright side.
Yeah, but you can feel your compassion and love for what you're all about. You have energy, you know what I mean? It's a great energy.
I think I have a lot of empathy, which can be hard too.
Yeah.
Because empathy I saw something the other day. It was like speaking to me. It was like, you're supposed to climb the mountain, not carry the mountain.
It's great.
And I was like, oh, was that written for me? Because I do feel like I do suffer from I'm never doing enough. I never feel like I'm doing enough for the world, right?
Wow.
To never ever feel like it.
You're doing a lot. You're one person.
You can never do enough. That's the problem, because
that's frustrating.
That is frustrating.
You just want to fix it.
Yeah. And that's hard. So I think though getting through is like trying to do some good things,
Yeah.
And try to feel like,
you put yourself out there. Like you are just, I don't know, man, just everything that you do is awesome.
Oh, wow.
And use that platform in such a positive way. It's so important.
Well, I think that the platform thing is really interesting. I feel like it's my big, it's my big goal too for my kids.
Yeah, you're a role model for so many people that never even met you.
Well,
you're like a mother figure. There's so many. I see the comments, like just doing the lives with you. Just so many people, and that's a lot to take on as well too. You know what I mean? Like,
well, those people, the people who are commenting, and the Billie's fans, they're amazing. They have been so inspiring to me.
Yeah.
Being on tour with Billie, it'll make me cry at the drop of a hat thinking of them because they're just incredible. These people, these young people, they're so full of passion and love.
Unconditional love.
And some of them are going through so much.
Yeah.
And they've really meant so much to me. And the love they give Billie and the love they give each
a lot
other.
Of people's lives with their music.
That's so crazy.
It's so true though. Music is so fucking powerful.
Music is so powerful. It is so powerful, And I know, to be honest, she can't take a lot of that in. It's a lot of it's a burden, it's a lot to bear, and she can't take in all the love, to be honest. It's hard to take it all in.
I can't imagine.
But the kids are the kids, the people, they're just, I don't know. They're amazing. I wish I could give, and you can't believe the things I've seen,
I'm sure.
Sometimes I remember
messages. You check your DMs?
I do, but I can't take them. I can't go too far with them. But for example, I remember being in Australia at this show, and I'm at that time. Again, it was me, Billie, and Phineas, and it was exhausting, and it was a lot, and it was stressful, and I'm doing my best to keep her happy and keep her safe and keep her well. And then I'm standing in the audience, and I'm standing next to a mom whose daughter is in a wheelchair and she's got cerebral palsy, and she's, this mom is just doing everything for this daughter, and the daughter's a fan, and I was able to get her to go backstage, and I was like, and there I am feeling like, oh, I'm doing so much, but then people are doing a lot out there. People are doing a lot for others, their family included, and
I think you're doing the best you can with getting the least sleep possible. I think like the best you can do every 24 hours a day. I think when you wake up, you just want to do so much, and people feel that, and it just resonates, and it's infectious. And I don't know. I think that don't doubt yourself. You're doing a lot.
Thank you.
But you got to sleep too, girl.
I'm going to try to get. I am trying to get more sleep. The puppy is better. The dog shark now sleeps. Mostly, he doesn't wake me up until time to get up. So that's a big change.
And you got to be so proud. I can't imagine how proud you are of your whole family. It's just...
I mean, that's always a word. That's a word that's like, it's kind of, it's a hard word.
Yeah, it is a hard word.
It's kind of, shame is kind of the opposite, so it's kind of a hard word. Like it implies some kind of ownership, but true. I just love what they're doing. I love that they are giving so much and that they are sticking, they're speaking out and they're using their platform, and
100%.
that, they have a superpower. They have a superpower, that you got to use it for good,
People should inspire just about like even being conscious of what you eat, just through just all that. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's such a positive way. Nothing like you have to be like me. You know what I mean? Like just leading by example. Like you did.
Yeah. Make it an option, Yeah. I know it's kind of funny. Well, when you're a long timer.
Yeah.
You're like,
I love seeing the world change, though. It's incredible to be alive right now.
Wow, we made it. Like, wow, it's really better.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was never going to happen.
Yeah, it seemed like it was. It was only a small group of people.
Yeah. And now it seems like it really can. It really can change.
I mean, there's options every single place every place you go to, there's some sort of option. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. So you think the world's a little blurry sums up everything we've talked about, kind of? If people watch that doc, they'll get everything. So much of you guys.
You know what? I always think of that song, actually, Ilo Milo. It's one of my favorite songs of theirs, and I always think of it as a parenting song. You know, of like, don't go out in the world. Stay here with me. Let me protect you. Yeah. The world's blurry. Something in my eyes. I think of it as a parenting song. They kind of channel stuff, and sometimes I don't even think they know where they get it. Like they write the song, and I'm like, that's about this, like, I don't, they're like, no, it's not. I'm like, yeah, it kind of is. But, they're channeling feelings and emotions around them,
It's incredible.
But that song, I think, the world is blurry. It's complicated, and you just got to try to do your best. I think
you guys did a great job raising your kids. They're going to be fine out there. You know what I mean?
You.
With compassion and love, and I don't know.
And a great team around them. That matters. Making sure they're surrounded by people that are good, and some people, some things slip through, unfortunately.
But I love that you're there.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
So great to meet you.
This was incredible,
Max didn't come in and talk to us.
Max, where you at? This was so good. I'm so happy to have this time with you. I know you're so busy, and
I
feel emotional. You made me emotional too, which is good.
Well, I feel like we should have known each other so many years ago.
I know, man. It's crazy. Max was signing off. You want to say anything? Are you awake?
I think he's asleep.
He comes home with Jeanette, thank you so much too for being here as well, and everything you do too with supporting Feed, and it's so honored. It's awesome to have met you guys. You know what I mean? Have you guys part of my life now and be connected to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being a part of Support and Feed, and helping us so much. Really makes such a difference.
We think we covered a lot of things.
We did. We covered a lot of things.
Max, you missed out. You missed out, kid.
I think he's dead asleep.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Toby. You guys are awesome.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening. That was amazing. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I love Maggie. I love everything she represents, her and her family, trying to make this world a better place. I appreciate hearing the backstory. Sometimes people don't talk about stuff from a long, long time ago, and I love doing deep dives on people and getting their history, and it's really, really inspiring. So thank you, Maggie, so much. If you want to support and donate, text the word FEED to 707070. Support and Feed. It's a great cause. It's a great nonprofit. Look them up on Instagram. Look them up online. And thanks, everyone, for listening and tuning in. That was incredible.